Hopefully that microphone's picking up this time. I did this once and there was no volume. I don't know if it's a connection issue or what. Maybe something in the setting. That's that. So let's see how the camera fared on that time. Alright. So I got all these machine screws in here. Sheet metal screws went to the top plate. They went over the top of this. The other machine screws went along here. I think there's 17, 18 of them. There was one or two missing. A whole bunch of the sheet metal or machine screws go in this part here. I gotta find a way to get these out. I think that's might be the clutch head. I can't tell because it's painted over. It's either the clutch head style or the Phillips. I'll see you in a minute. I'm gonna take this side off too, just so I can get to both sides. Get as much as I can from the inside of the vehicle. I still got to undo the emergency brake right there. Usually we'll undo it right here and then we'll unscrew it. I got to undo this part here. This is the starter. Notice the wires. White wire goes right there to the bottom. This is your, excuse me here. Two wires here. Actually the bottom. All three, four go to this. And then I got this right here. So there you can see better. Look at it. There's, yep. Anyways, we'll get that off. Still got to undo the fuel line. Got to undo the motor mounts. Still got to undo the radiator, the hose and everything. These are flex hoses, so you can use them. Hopefully, I want to change for the small block Chevy, but if I do, I do. Then I got the linkage right there, the stick shift. The throttle cable, this is the original. and it's going to hook back up to the carburetor. I don't remember how the spring's going to go. The guy had to do these springs. I hated doing that, but I kind of didn't have much of a choice. But I should have the fuel line, the steel one that goes to the other carburetor engine. I think it was all one piece, so I got it. The steel line and then the carburetor. I'll take that piece off there. I'm going to put some tape over the top of the carburetor so nothing slips in there. Undo the choke cable. A whole lot of little things to do. Not taking too much time now. Here's the other deal is I may have to move my transmission mount. I don't really know how it's going to look. The old GM, I believe, went, the small block Chevy, I mean, went right there somewhere. Guess I'll find out when I put that together. Yeah. Anyways, I'm not sure. I'll figure it out once I get that spot. Once I get this part up though, or smooth, I'll clean everything up, get everything ready for the new engine. One thing that I forgot about was when I do the new engine, once you do the break-in, you got to retorque the heads. And it's only because this style of Velcro gaskets I'm using is more like a stem shield. God, I can't hardly talk. I need more coffee. It's a steel shim type material. And so what I will do is I will warm it up. You know, when I talked to Howard's Cam, what they said to do is make sure everything's ready to start it up, run it about 900 RPM, and just run it until it gets fully up to temperature. This is because I have a roller lifters. You know, it's a retrofit for an old small block Chevy. You don't run it at 2,000 RPM like the flat tappet lifters. So what I'll have to do is I will run it at, like I said, 900 RPM. Let it warm up to full temperature, and then you shut it off and you let it sit overnight. He said, and then the next day you start it up and you do it again. He recommended a light oil, like a 5-weight, 530 or something, 520 break-in oil, because it'll get to the bearings and journals quicker, faster. And then once you, of course, once you do all the break-in, you know, both, I'm going to do it 2 times, you know, that, and then the next night, he said, after you run it the first night, the next day when you run it, you'll, more of the air will have kind of worked its way out from the lifters. They'll be hydraulically loaded from the oil. And then you run it again and it should smooth out. He says it'll run rough when you first start up because the lifter's got to preload with the oil. And I've had that engine sitting in the garage for quite a while. I will pre-prime it again with the lube and oil to get it all ready to go. But I'll make sure that you know, everything's been well lubricated, and then before I start up. And then there's a few other things I'm going to do different. The other thing with when I have to retorque the heads, that means I'll have to take out my exhaust manifolds, I think. I'm trying to remember, I think they're going to cover up the lower bolts on the cylinder head, so I'll have to remove the exhaust manifold to retorque it. And then once that's done, I'll put everything back together and I'm ready to go. So that's where I'm at right now. This is day 1 of tearing it apart. You know, getting the 292 out. I love this engine. It's been a great engine. I've enjoyed it. I miss my small block Chevy. I never really got to drive with the small block Chevy because it never, you know, I didn't have it titled, and then the cam was wiped out. I think part of what wiped it out is it sat so much before I got it, and then when I got it, I just would start it, run it. And like that guy said, don't ever rev up an engine that's been sitting for a long time. You know, let it sit and idle. You know, and then after a while, when it starts quieting up, then you kind of rev it a little bit, but you should never really rev them up too much. These old vehicles, we used to do it to get them hot, you know, so the choke would open up. This one here has a mechanical choke, which is cable operated right there. So that's that. I don't know how much of this video is even going to come through because I had the radio running and I didn't realize it. The cars came on, and so I realized, oh gosh, I better shut that radio off, otherwise it's gonna, maybe the YouTube studio creator will let me edit out the music if it tries to flag me for it. But hopefully we'll see what happens. I did start and run this and drive it a little bit yesterday, just kind of get the fuel line moving, you know, get some fuel all the way up to the top there, and it run fine. I got exhaust like down here. This thing always kind of never get to seal up right there. But anyways, and it could be, you know, because this has a split exhaust, I believe, if I remember right. I've kind of quit even learning any more about this engine. I would say, yeah, the intake and the exhaust is one piece on this, or two piece. So, but then it comes together in the bottom there. It's kind of a weird deal. I'll put another video on it after I pull it all out. But that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna go on ahead and keep plugging away. I don't really need to take this plate out yet. I will here pretty soon when I try to pull this transmission out, because I'm gonna try to pull it all out together, I think, and maybe separate it while it's in the garage. Because I'm gonna put the old transmission that came with this engine back on it and keep this separate, because I may wind up having to reuse this if this 4L80E shits out on me. I'll go ahead and put this back in. Everything's gonna be the same as far as the engine's concerned. What'll be different, you know, I mean, there will be some upgrades in the engine, but it's going to sit in the same location and everything. But what's different is I'll have a 4L80E, which goes out to about there. I don't know what that's going to do with the drive shaft length. Would be neat if I didn't have to change it, but I'm sure I will. And I'll have to undo the U-bolts and put on the yoke to the old transmission. But like I said, I'll have to relocate the cross member, probably get something to hold the, they have these universal mounts for the 4L80Es. And then I'll get all that going. But that's all I really want to do with this video. Sorry it's shaking. I'm kind of need to get coffee in me. This is where I'm at right now. I'm going to just remove as much as I can to give me a bigger opening to put it back in. At least for that side. This side's not so bad, but that side there, I really need that out. And I want this piece off here because I want to be able to pull it straight up. I think last time when I first pulled the V8 out, I separated the transmission and dropped it, and then just pull the engine out. But this time here, I'm gonna see if I can pull it all out together. All right, I'll get off here. Thanks for watching. Okay, so the speedo cable disconnected, emergency brake off, all the wires up the starter, off the coil, kind of got them all tucked over here, out of the way. I got the fuel line. I didn't have a plug, so I just used the end of a Sharpie. It's holding, ain't no drip. And so all I really have left for the motor itself, I do have the shift linkage off too, as you can see, and the carburetor piece is out and kind of dangling over there. So I have the transmission mounts and then the motor mounts in there, and I even got the exhaust off. And I got this piece here that's just gonna stay with it. It's a vacuum. I've had a vacuum gauge originally on here with the old engine. So now, got my little belt stop. For some reason it was thrown in the belt. I know why, it's because of the brackets. I fabricated that when it was in the step van. I wish I would have done it when it was in the garage before I put the motor in. Anyway, so make sure my positive's doing what it's supposed to do. It's disconnected. I may just tape it just to make sure I don't accidentally put on that by accident. So I do have an isolator that in case I do something stupid, not paying attention, I want to make sure that's covered. I'm going to put some tape over that. So the other thing I got to do is remove the power steering pump. That's why I took this bolt here off. I use that to keep that from rolling off, so you can actually roll that off. But what I was planning to do is just hang the power steering pump somehow in there out of the way, so when I put the V8 back in, it's going to go on the V8, and I really don't want to have to bleed the lines and all that. And this is the original power steering pump that was on the V8 anyways. This 292 did not have a power steering system. It didn't have a pump on it or nothing, and those brackets are like $200-300 bucks, 160 now. But I do have the correct ones. That is, never got around to putting them in because I knew I was going to be swapping this back out anyway. So I'll probably sell those brackets separate since the motor never really came with it. And I noticed that was kind of loose anyway. So my alternator belt. Now I don't remember if this alternator goes to my V8 or if I think I reused it from the V8 because the plug was different. whether it's internally grounded or externally grounded or regulated, internally regulated or externally regulated. I had to reuse the old V8 alternator. I'm pretty sure I did. And you can tell from the plug how the prongs are. They're either vertical or horizontal next to each other, but that tells you which way it's internally or externally regulated. What happened was when I first installed this and I put in the alternator that went to this motor, it started showing like 14, 15 volts. Well, actually 16, 17 volts was putting out, and it's because it was not regulated the same as what this system would have normally been regulated. So I went ahead and just put the V8 alternator back in just because I didn't want to deal with an external regulator. I wanted it to be internal. Anyways, I digress. I will swap that back out and put that on the V8. So, and there's how that's set up. I put an electric fan on this. I like that better. I do feel like I could tell that there was a difference in horsepower when I took the fan off the straight six. So I may go on ahead and leave it off the V8 and just, I have a switch inside the cab. When I turn it on, it always runs. And when you turn it off, it'll automatically kick on if it needs to. So with thermal, it has a thermal sensor that knows when it needs to be kicked on. So it's a double protection I decided to use in it. So, and then once I get the motor mounts and all that done, I'm going to do this antifreeze last because I don't want it dripping down on me if I'm working underneath, working on motor mounts. I'll do that last, and I'll drain the radiator. So, all right, so that's where I'm at right now. All right, talk to you soon. Okay, so I got the drive shaft disconnected, everything's disconnected. I got the hoses off over here in the front. The hose is off. I drained top and bottom. Got the power steering pump kind of dangling out of the way. Had the alternator disconnected. I'm going to leave it on there until I pull the engine and I'll swap them out. And let me see here. I got motor mounts are all loose. The nuts off. That's just sitting there like that. I'm going to leave that there just for now until I get the engine lift. And then when I raise it up off, then once I know I have it with the engine lift, I'll pull those bolts out. They're just there to keep from slipping or sliding or doing something weird, because I did take the bushings out, or the bolts out of the transmission mount. So two things. This is going to be an interesting one with this cross member. I don't think it'd be a problem. I'll just move it down that way, because this vehicle did come with an automatic transmission, the TH400 to be exact. This right here. And so I'm sure these holes line up. You can see there's a little hole right there. Good. Yeah, they're fine. Anyway, so I'm gonna have to move this cross member back, but I'm sure there are holes to line up back in here. Like I said, you could put an automatic in. I just don't know if it's going to line up with the 4L ADE. The other thing is, this had a carrier bearing, so it's a split. I don't know what you would call it. It's a two-piece drive shaft. There's a slip yoke. It's a slip on the carrier bearing. So I'll have to figure out how I'm going to do that with the new drive shaft. Somehow I'll either have to move the carrier bearing, or I don't know. I'll just have to figure it out once I get there. Can't be that complicated. But I know this center end, because the input is to the left of the center, and the transmission will be centered. I'm sure the carrier bearing, that's part of its job, is allow the misalignment and to kind of support it. So among other things, the carrier bearing does a whole lot of things actually. But anyways, everything's just kind of up off the ground for now. Once I get the new transmission in, I'll get it measured up. I'll figure out where things are going to line up over here, how that's supposed to attach. It may be the drive shaft place where I take the drive shaft I have. It may be I just use the slip yoke that goes into the new transmission, and then I show them what I got here dimension wise, and they just match it up. So it may be, it's going to be something that goes to a carrier bearing like this, and maybe I'll just have to tie it all together. So I don't know, I'll figure it out one piece at a time. Anyways, that's where I'm at right now. I'm pretty much at a stopping point. I can get the engine lift out and pull it out, but I still got to go get the skid that this engine was on, and that way I'll have a place to set it down. And then I got to put some stuff together on my newer rebuilt engine, and I'll be back to having the V8. That'll be nice. All right, thanks for watching. Well, here it is so far. Got it out of the hole there. Still more antifreeze was still kind of stuck in here when I tilted it. So far everything's going good. Nothing bent up or broke or nothing. I've got it kind of leveled up. I angled the back end up and it helped me slide it through. So far so good. Sorry, I can't really talk. A little bit of muscle trying to move stuff around, but straps are all in the right spot. Everything's working as it should. Motor mount there. Do some of that. It's safe though, it's not going anywhere. So anyways, I just need to roll it out of here. Try to get it into the garage somehow. Over that lip. I'll go get some piece of sheet metal to get over that lip. At this point I can kind of roll it out, and I'm going to lower it down. Learned a long time ago, you never really roll any of these things around while they're suspended in the air. Get them as low as possible. In case something were to tip or something, you don't want it high centered. All the weight up high could cause it to tip over, especially the way I'm moving this around quite a bit like that. But I'll get it out of the hole here of the doorway, and then I'll set it down to where it's lower. All right, thanks. I'll check back in a little while. Well, she's all out. So I covered the exhaust pipe. I don't want wasps, hornets, whatever getting in. So that's that. Totally out. And I'll show you where it's at. Hold on. And there it sits. I gotta get my straps off. It's by a big pile of stuff around my garage I'm trying to clean out. As soon as I get this V8 put in, I'll have everything swapped out, and then be able to start building. Well, I'll start putting back my garage, get it back together again. And there it is. I have my, what you call that, jaw horse kind of in the way right now, but everything's here. It's all in one piece. I'm gonna separate the transmission, probably put the old one back on it, or maybe leave it off until I know the guy's gonna come get the engine. Everything's just kind of sitting there ready to go in case they come get it, but I do need to get my straps off to move the V8. And here's the V8 right here. Now the transmission's underneath that table there. It's that back one right there. So what I'm gonna have to do is rig it up on this table. I'll put the transmission up on the table, and then I'll raise the engine up, pair it up while the transmission's still on the table. Anyways, garage is a mess. I don't want to show too much. I still have my manifolds, starter and stuff I need to clean up, put on the new engine, new rebuilt engine. Here's the motor mounts. I got to clean those up too. Should already have done this. I don't know why I didn't. Anyways, that's that. So far, everything's going according to plan. Thanks for watching. All right, here's the latest. Got the motor mounts put back in, and then got the cross member for the transmission pulled out. I have everything kind of set in Ziploc bags. I just covered that up. I think I already said that in another video. So all I really have left is to finish putting on some of the hardware to the V8. Some of the stuff I'm going to do while it's in here, like the starter, I'm just trying to take weight off of when I try to bring it in. And then, I mean, it's a little more cumbersome trying to get the starter on while I'm under the vehicle, but I'd rather do it under here and not worry about banging the side of the starter on anything. Should be free and clear, but I just want to make it as light as possible and as easy to maneuver in there as possible. I don't want anything extra on the engine that doesn't need to be there. if I can do it on the outside, I've done the starter a dozen times, you know, put it on the V8. It would probably be easier to do it while it's on the engine stand or in the air, but I don't really want to deal with it in the air or whatever. I'll just do it while it's here. It's not that big a deal. I can actually, with the floor out, hold it up and then run the bolts in, or, you know, just bench press it, which it's not that bad. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. I'm not going to reuse that speedometer cable, but I will cover it up, seal it up, and then just kind of tuck it out of the way. Same with the stick shift, you know, for the clutch linkage, where that was right there. I'm going to kind of wire it up out of the way and leave the pedal there for now. But that's pretty much where I'm at right now. Hopefully, it's going to be a few days. I'm back to work tonight. I work 4 nights, 12 hours each shift, and then 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I don't feel like trying to do this outside of that normal schedule. And if I have a locksmith job, I may have to throw stuff in my truck and then go do the job, as opposed to driving the step in. I wasn't driving that much anyways with the stick shift, because I was having, with the power steering was the biggest thing. Power steering belt was wearing too fast. I just didn't feel like driving it that far, that high at RPM, and wearing it because of the way I had it rigged up. My fault, but I just got to where I didn't want to keep messing with it, and I didn't want to spend any more time or money into that straight six. The straight six is a perfect engine. There's nothing wrong with it. But how I had to modify it to accommodate that power steering, I wasn't too happy with. And the belt shivs was different, because that's a V8 belt shiv. It's a wider shiv than what normally would have been with the 292 on the harmonic balancer. The shivs on that, so it was wearing it down too quick between that and the alignment. So anyways, that's what that was all about. Same with the alternator. The alternator came off the V8, and the shiv width was different than on the straight six. So, but I needed it internally grounded as opposed to externally grounded. So I was just making do, and I was just going through belts. Not horribly bad, but the more I went out on the highway at 60 miles per hour at 3,000 plus RPM, it just was wearing them out quicker. So that's that. I could have dealt with it and changed shivs and all that, but I didn't want to spend any more money buying parts and labor when I could just keep focused on the V8. So that's what I did. Now, I may be able to reuse the old transmission cross member. It's got a peak design instead of a plate or a drop or whatever. When you look up for the 4L80E, I could probably make something work with it. But I decided let's just go ahead and get the engine in there, and I'll block up the transmission to get the right angle for what you want. So when you look at the vehicle, you want your engine to be at a certain angle. So I will look at that and figure out how it's going to be. You want your oil to drain to the back at all times. You don't want to lift it too high or too low. So I figure I'll go ahead and put it in there and look at what it would be level on the vehicle, on the ground, and then I'll figure it out with my height. Plus, you want it, for this first part, as straight as possible to the carrier bearing, and then from the carrier bearing to the rear end, you can deal with some of the angles there, but you still want that angle to be, you know, parallel to the angle of the rear end. So just from all the reading I did, that's kind of where I come up with on that. So that's that. So we'll go on ahead and get this figured out, and I'll try to record a little more when I get further along and ready to drop it in there. All right, thanks for watching.